Today we are going to look at the little fight between Firefox and Brave right now. From a person who uses both, but has also been critical of both, I'm going to run through the arguments and maybe show you what in the world's going on here and talk about which one of these might be the better of the browsers. So stay tuned for this fun one. Welcome back to Switch to Linux. We like to cover free and open source software over here, and right now we have two FOSS web browsers, which are in a little spat with each other, and I have some thoughts. First and foremost, as you know, I've always said choosing a web browser is like voting for your president. It's election day soon, isn't it? There's really not a lot of good choices. You choose the one that sucks the least. At least when you're talking about web browsers, unlike presidents, you can choose the better ones for the better options and use multiple of them at a time. So we are going to go ahead and get into the spat between Brave browser and Firefox, which was started by Firefox. By the way, it looks to me like Brave is just defending itself a little bit. But with that, we are going to go ahead and dive on in. And if you like this type of content, leave us a like and a subscribe and maybe a comment down below. So this all started out with Firefox releasing a press release. And in this press release, Firefox versus Brave from Mozilla. This is the Mozilla. I don't know if this is their blog. It's just Firefox browsers compare Brave. So I don't know, maybe if I change this Brave to Chrome or something, I might get something else. I don't know. Do they have multiple do they have one of these for each browser? I don't know. Let's see what happens on Chrome. Oh, they do. Look at that. They do have one for Chrome as well. But anyway, their latest one here was on Brave, and then this made its rounds around. So it says Firefox's privacy settings are strong and easy to use. Brave's default ad blocker may break the websites you visit, so you have to keep fiddling with it. We want privacy to be convenient enough you'll actually use it. Firefox makes it easy for you to choose which search engine you want to use every time you search. Brave defaults to their own search engine, and you have to go through the browser settings to pick something different. Firefox gives you the option to encrypt your saved passwords, and you can even use a primary password to access them. Your passwords are protected even if you have to share a computer. Brave does not password protect your passwords. We also offer easy-to-use features such as editing PDFs and translating a web page locally. It's easy to switch to Firefox, and switching to Firefox, is easy and fast. Import your Brave bookmarks, your passwords, history, and preferences with one click. Immediately be ready to use Firefox. As we said, they do. I didn't even think about this until I started recording the video, but they do actually have some on some of the other browsers. There's Chrome. So we block trackers by default. Chrome doesn't. That's interesting. We'll talk about that. Google runs the world's largest advertising network, and Chrome is part of that. There you go. Let's see if they have one for Edge. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing by ear now. Oh, look at that. Firefox makes privacy protection easy and convenient so that you don't have to worry about it. We block trackers by default. Edge doesn't. Again, we'll talk about that. Again, with translating and editing PDFs, easy to switch, etc., etc. So this is an interesting thing. And It's FOSS comes out with a discussion about it. So fight over privacy. Firefox and Brave take pot shots at each other. Firefox put out some claims on their blog post. It doesn't look like that's a blog post. It looks like that's a comparison chart. I think their blog has blog somewhere in the URL. So for clarity on that. It is not exactly how it seems. Do you agree? Web browsers are synonymous with the internet as they serve user-friendly. Okay, we don't need to read all of that. Basically, when we're talking about privacy browsers, if you're talking about ClearNet, regular privacy browsers, Firefox, LibreWolf, Brave, and Molvat. I will point out Brave is the only one in that list that is not based on Firefox. Molvat browser and LibreWolf are really good options, but they are also based on Firefox. Brave is the only one of these based on Chrome, or Chromium, technically. And so at the same time, the post comes out, let me go ahead and allow this guy. And so Luke Malks from Brave, this is some severe mental gymnastics from charlatans at Firefox propaganda department with this one. Let's unpack this nonsense. He does say let's unpack this nonsense, but he didn't actually give us anything in that particular post. And being as that I'm not logged into Twitter over here, I can't actually view anything. He basically says, let's see, Firefox versus Brave. Firefox privacy settings are strong and easy. Brave's ad blocking breaks things. Basically the same press release that we have already seen. Now, I didn't see anything officially on Brave's website about this, but there are a lot of other comments. There's a Reddit thread about this where people are making some good points. And the article here from It's Foss has a few comments as well. So ultimately, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into a virtual machine where I've installed Brave and Firefox and haven't even opened either of them. We're going to show you what those look like side by side, right next to each other on a brand new install without doing any tweaks or any adjustments. Before we get there, however, we do have to point out a couple of things. They're talking first about password managers. You should never use your browser for password managers. You don't do that. You can use a password integration. I did a video a couple years back on KeePassXC browser integration. So KeePassXC is an offline password manager. Everything stays securely on your device, and then you add a plugin, and then you unlock your password with KeePassXC, and then the browser integration plugin links with the password manager, allowing you to use your KeePassXC passwords with your browser. This works on both browsers. So it'll work with Chrome or Chromium-based browsers, including Brave. It works with Firefox, LibreWolf. It will not work on Malvad browser. I'll indicate that just because Malvad, one of the things they do to make sure every Malvad browser looks exactly the same, you can't install extensions. So unless they have it pre-installed, and I don't think they do, you can't actually use that feature. But you can and you should use a offline password manager to store passwords. Never store them in the browser. So Firefox saying to use their browser to store passwords, even if they are allegedly encrypted, no, thank you. I'll not do that. So I am going to mention that. But what we do want to talk about here before we get into that is there is actually an independent organization that tests all of the browsers for a plethora of privacy-related items. This is called privacytests.org. And you can choose various types of browsers. We're only considering here the desktop browsers. And you can actually see there's Brave, Chrome, DuckDuckGo, Edge, Firefox, LibreWolf, Malvad, Opera, Safari, the Tor browser on Google Chromium, and Vivaldi. And you can look at the chart here and see all of the various items. I wish I could just show you just the two browsers, but I don't see the option to do that. And let's see, this is 91 updated. There you go, updated 9/15. So this is updated about 6 weeks ago from now. And from when I'm recording this. And so just pay attention to the Firefox column and the Brave column. Everything else, very useful, interesting things. But at the same time, just looking at it cursory, what are the only browsers that actually has everything green on the front page without scrolling down? The only ones are Brave, Firefox, LibreWolf, Malvad, Safari actually, who thunk it, and the Tor browser. And so you can see that for the purposes here, Brave and Firefox, on the first grouping of things, these two are equal. You can see that there is a cookie store event here. Cookie store API is an alternative asynchronous API for managing cookies, supported by some browsers. Brave supports it, and Firefox does not support it. And let me double check. There is not a feature for it. So the check mark passes the test. Their feature is absent with a green dash, and the red X is it fails the test. And so what we actually see here is that Brave is actually pretty much on par. Actually, it looks like Brave completely wins that category, mostly due to that cookie store. It's the only browser that actually has that feature plugged in. You see that Chrome and Edge and Opera and Vivaldi all fail that test. On Google Chromium is actually the only other one that has the feature built in. So this is probably something related to Chromium APIs, which is why the other browsers, which are based on Firefox, Tor, LibreWolf, Malvad, Firefox are all based on Firefox. They don't have it. And that's probably the case. I have no information about the DuckDuckGo engine. That looks like based on the fact it's lacking the feature. I'm guessing it might be based on the Firefox engine, but I don't know anything about that particular browser. I don't think there's a Linux version yet either. But you can see in the first category, the basic state partitioning tests, that Firefox and Brave are effectively equivalent. There's that cookie store issue. That is so obscure, I'm not going to worry about it. When you move down, looking at navigation tests, once again, Firefox and Brave are matched up. Also, the DuckDuckGo browser, LibreWolf, Malvad, Safari, and the Tor browser. So they are equivalent there. This is where we start seeing some differences. HTTPS tests. Okay, so upgradable addresses. So this one passes. So checks to see if an insecure address entered into the browser's address bar is upgraded to HTTPS whenever possible. I think that is forcing something into an HTTPS mode instead of HTTP. That is if I'm correct about that, and that's what it says here and here. If I'm correct about that, then Firefox has that as an option, but it is disabled by default. I'm going to test that when we get into there, because I have one of my servers. If you try and get to it and the server's not ready, it's not turned on yet, it upgrades to the HTTPS. So I'm going to test accessing that IP address on both and see what happens. I actually intentionally leave that disabled because I work with a lot of servers that don't have SSLs installed for back-end development stuff, and there is nothing more frustrating than when your browser keeps on trying to force HTTPS when it doesn't exist. So I love Firefox, that feature. I can turn it off easily. However, if you're talking about a pure privacy security element, Brave is technically better. Looking at miscellaneous tests, you'll see that Brave has these three. In fact, let's see, ECH, encrypted client hello, new protocol that hides the website you're visiting from third-party network eavesdroppers. So this is something that is built into Chrome. I'm not sure why it's not in Googled Chromium there, but you'll see that it passes here. None of the Firefox browsers, including Tor, has that. GPC enabled first party, so you'll see that passes, and GPC enabled third party. Global privacy control, HTTP header that can be sent by a browser to instruct a website not to sell a user's personal data to third parties. This test checks to see if GPC header is sent by default to top level website. In fact, that's important. I am missing an article on my listing here because we're going to talk about the fact that Firefox is now the privacy headers that they're doing. They're literally now testing extending your information to advertisers. That's what Firefox is doing. So that is disabling all of that kind of stuff there. Firefox does not have such a feature. You can see that the Tor browser does actually do some things that nobody else does. IP addresses can be leaked to uniquely identify a large percentage of users. Proxy VPN or Tor mask it. So that's why the Tor browser works. Stream isolation and Tor enabled. I will note Brave does have a Tor enabled feature, but it is not secure. It's not like using Tor. It allows you to use the Tor service to access .onion routers, but it does not actually do what Tor does. Do not use that system as it's the Tor browser. Don't do that. You want to download the Tor browser if you want to access that. All right, fingerprinting resistance tests. So this is actually where Firefox can do a lot of this stuff, but it's all disabled by default. So you can see that Brave does a much better job of doing fingerprint analysis. For some reason, Firefox blocks your screen X, but not your screen Y. No idea why. But that is a feature, I guess. So I don't know. You'll see that LibreWolf and Mulvad and the Tor browser, they all do these as well. But Firefox is woefully absent on those. Tracking parameters. This is the one that they had mentioned up here about it blocks trackers. I think, let's see. Let me double check here. At least that was on the one on Chrome and stuff. Blocking trackers, and they actually said that they blocked the trackers and such. Apparently they don't by default. These are all tracking parameters that are added to various things. This will determine if you have clicked on a web page from Facebook. It'll send a note back to Facebook that you've clicked website. This is from a Google identifier. So there's a number. This is a Microsoft identifier. So if you look at articles, for example, this one here, our original It's Foss article, if you go back and you look at the URL bar at the bottom, unfortunately, it cuts off in my screen recording, so I'll kind of show you. Oh, I cut off my header too. Hold on. I'm just going to have to show you my whole desktop here. It's a little ugly view, not as professional as I'd like to be, but I want you to see what's going on here. I'm first going to go back to this one. And if we show you the whole desktop and you hover over this link here that goes off site and look at the very bottom of the browser window there, you see that question ref equals news.itsfoss.com. That is a reference link that tells Twitter when you clicked on that link that this link is coming from It's Foss. So what happens here is that the Brave browser actually is the one that blocks most of those types of refers. Firefox does not seem to block any of those. LibreWolf and Mulvad do. Tor blocks all of them except just a couple. Let me see. MailerLite hash, unknown high entropy, Adobe Site Catalyst, that's weird it doesn't block, and Vero tracking. So I'm not sure why Tor does not block those specific ones, but you'll notice that LibreWolf, Mulvad, and Brave all do. Now, what's significant about this is that Mulvad and LibreWolf are based on Firefox, meaning that the Firefox's choice to not block these is intentional. So here is tracker content blocking tests. So here is other trackers, Bing ads, Facebook tracking, Google third-party tracking, Google Analytics, Google Tag Managers, all these types of things, Twitter Pixel, Yandex ads, those evil Russians, according to what we keep on being told. So you'll notice that Brave blocks all of them, Firefox blocks none of them, and LibreWolf and Mulvad browser do block them all as well, meaning Firefox is capable of blocking such things, they just don't. And then tracking cookie protection. So again, here's more of that. Here's Facebook tracking, Google Analytics. Once again, Firefox is blocking these ones. Which browsers block important known tracking versus this is important known tracking scripts and pixels. So this means that Firefox is blocking the tracking cookies, but not the pixels or the scripts, whereas Brave is blocking the pixels and the scripts and the cookies. Cross-section first-party tests. This is the one that Brave and Firefox equally fail. LibreWolf mostly passes, Mulvad passes, and Tor browser pass. And then cross-section third-party tracking tests. You'll see that Brave does a couple of these. Firefox does none of these. Tor, Mulvad, and LibreWolf are mostly pass. And then this is your DNS privacy tests. This is also the one that I do not like. This would be reference to DNS over HTTPS. I am not a fan of DNS over HTTPS. And so you can see here that Brave has some of this enabled. Firefox has a few more. So this is really the only category that by default Firefox is doing better. So for Firefox to come out with this press release saying that they're better than Brave for privacy is objectively by a third-party privacy testing organization not true. Ultimately, according to pure privacy out of the box, just opening it up and using it, Brave is the better choice. But in my opinion, I actually prefer Firefox because it is a lot easier to toggle and change a lot of these settings. It is effectively like you have inside of if you want to be better private on your phone and you don't want to tinker with anything, an iPhone is definitely more private than an Android phone. But if you're going to tinker with your phone and make it as private as theoretically possible, an Android phone is better because you have more options to get in there, modify the software, do whatever you need to do. For example, my phone, Graphene OS, is not blocked at all by, not tracked at all, I should say, by any of these parties. Whereas if I were to keep this as a stock Pixel phone, what it is, well then, yeah, Google has a lot of tendrils inside of that. So if I were using this as a Google phone versus just buying an iPhone, the iPhone is more private by default without tinkering with it, but I'm a tinkerer. I modified my phone so that it is as private as conceivably possible. And in that respect, and the Android platform is better. And that's what Firefox says. Out of the box, Brave is better from a privacy standpoint. If you are making modifications, Firefox is actually the better browser. So for the last part of this video here, I want to go over to a virtual machine and we are going to look at these browsers out of the box and see what's going to go on. And then we're going to come back and we're going to have a brief look at the Reddit comments because some of those are really nice. So let's go ahead and have a look at our virtual machine next. All right, so here we are on our virtual machine, and this is a Linux Mint Mate 22. It's just the easiest and quickest to install and get up to date. So I installed it, pushed all of the updates. I installed Firefox. Well, Firefox comes pre-installed. I installed Chromium just so we could have an independent web browser that's not either one of these two browsers, and I installed Brave. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these issues here. Now, before we get into this, I've mentioned here briefly Mozilla's new approach, the privacy-preserving attribute, which I have a whole separate video on. This is literally Firefox opting you in to send allegedly anonymous data to advertisers to better target advertising. Anonymously, privately. The problem is that they have made a really good job of trying to tell people how great it is that we're sending your data to an advertiser, but don't worry, we have de-anonymized it, which, by the way, people have demonstrated anonymizing data does not work. But let's go ahead and have a look at what they say. Firefox's privacy settings are strong and easy to use. The problem I have with that is that Firefox's privacy settings by default are not enabled. If you install Firefox and turn it on for the very first time, the big challenge that we have is the first thing, we love keeping you safe. Import your previous browser information as a skip, and then the very first time you load it, you get this. We believe that privacy is fundamental to a healthy internet. With all of this stuff over here, the problem is that it does not, by default, it actually has you opted in to sending data to them. That's not privacy focused. So let's skip this step and stay encrypted when you're between devices. No, that is about their account login. This is decent here where you can add this. Remember this removing tracking elements? This is what Brave does by default. On Firefox, you need to install a plugin for that. Facebook container prevents Facebook from tracking you around the web. Brave does that by default. Privacy browser will also block other ad trackers. Brave does that by default. However, I will note that adding this is adding privacy browser at least, or Badger at least, is probably still something I would recommend to do. And let's see our next one. Okay, there's your start browsing. And they used to give you a quick thing at the bottom giving you the option to opt out of things, which I didn't actually see this time. So let's go ahead and have a look at our settings and see if that is set up or not. So going into your settings and your privacy and security, have a look down here, and Firefox data collection use. Allow Firefox to send technical data back to Mozilla. Allow Firefox to make personalized extension recommendations. Allow Firefox to install and run studies. All things enabled by default on a Firefox install. That is not privacy focused. Now, Brave might very well do the same thing. Let's go ahead and start up Brave now for the very first time. See what happens. All right, so here is Brave. Now on Brave, let's go ahead and skip this. You can do your theming. And then here is want better search results, contribute, help us fix the web participating in Brave's web discovery project by sharing completely anonymous search signals. You can help the browser grow. I'm not sure if this is related to Brave search or the Brave browser, but at least we have the option to say maybe later. There's no option that says, hell no, stop offering me this crap. But hey, we can hit the maybe later. Of course, they're using their dark patterns there. They really want you to send the data, but at least they give you the option. This is the next one, send diagnostics data. I can easily turn this off. Share private and anonymous product insights. I can easily turn this off. It's not enabled by default. So Brave, out of the box, when it comes to sending data to the browser itself, is better on that technical level. All right, Brave's default ad blocking may break websites you visit, so you have to keep fiddling with it. Okay, I can't show you this right out of the box here, but I have never encountered a problem that Brave broke a website. Not any more than uBlock or AdBlock would do. However, remember, Mozilla makes 80 plus, I think it's 85% of their income comes from Google, and Google does not want you to run an ad blocker, and Mozilla wants to send your information to advertisers so that they can block, or they can, target you with ads allegedly anonymously. And so that's nonsense. I'd rather have an ad blocker, and Brave's ad blocker is not impacted by Manifest v3, which is, of course, the new controversial thing, killing your ad blockers in Chrome and Chromium-based browsers. However, Brave has committed to keeping Manifest v2 around for a significant amount of time. We don't know exactly how long. Firefox is also committed to say we are going to keep it around for as long as possible. So if you want to use the better version, which is uBlock Origin, then you can easily install that on both Brave and on Firefox without a problem. I will note, however, that the new version, uBlock Origin Lite, you may not find on Firefox because Firefox pissed off the developers and they're like, it's not worth our time. You want uBlock Origin Lite, you got to get it directly from us and sideload it. Because Firefox was effectively being idiots, and Raymond Hill's like, I'm not messing with you idiots right now. And so, guess what? You can get both extensions on Brave. If you want to do your own testing to see if it's actually worth it for you, yeah, you can still run them both over on Brave a lot easier. We want privacy to be convenient enough you'll actually use it. That's funny because remember, their browser by default is not private. By default does not do a lot of the fingerprint blocking and other things that they want. Now, you can go in these settings and you can make it a whole lot better. You can come in here and you can choose what type of scripts to block. Now, they say suspected fingerprints and known fingerprinters. However, let's see what this one is. Standard is balanced, so it's going to block. It says it blocks some things. Here's custom, you can choose. Here's strict is going to block effectively everything. Now note that this will cause some websites to break if you're actually using the fingerprint blocking. But by default, they don't block a ton of it, according to the privacy studies. Also, by default, they do want to ask you to save passwords. They do want to do autofill on both addresses and payment information. They want to remember your history. And let's see, they will block things. That's good. They will block other certain things. And we're going to get into that setting here in a minute. I do not know if Brave does those options or not. Let's go ahead and have a look at what they do by default. It would not surprise me if they are doing exactly the same things. You have to bear with me here. I don't go into the settings in Brave quite as much, but let's go ahead and have a look here. So security, here's Google services for push messaging. No. Let's see what else we got here. Prevent sites from fingerprinting. Yes. send a do not track request. So you can turn that on. It is off by default. Here's the private window with Tor. Not sure what that's doing. This is the one we mentioned, the Tor stuff. Don't use the Tor stuff with Brave. It's not designed for that. Data collection, allow privacy preserving product analysis. This is that same feature that Mozilla is doing. It is disabled. Automatically send daily usage ping to Brave. The private ping lets Brave estimate active users. Okay, that should be disabled by default. So we should want to turn that off. As far as saving data, so down here under autofill passwords, so here's their password manager, so you can save your passwords here, and they're saving it as a CSV file. Yikes. Like I said, use KeePassXC in their browser extension. Payment methods, you'll see by default, it is going to allow you to check. So it is saving those, the same thing that Firefox is doing by default. I like turning those off. I don't even want to risk it accidentally saving information and things like that. So those have effectively an equal score on that. All right, so Firefox makes it easier to choose which search engine you want to use. This one is hilarious, not only to me, but to other people as well. And the reason is, if you want to search for something, Brave defaults to the Brave search engine, which is not my favorite search engine, but it is functional and private. All right. Now, if you're going to search for something, I think what Firefox is getting at is if I want to search for something, the default there is Brave, and doesn't seem to be a way that I can change that other than changing my search engine, which is not difficult to do. Although they have said that this is actually more of a bug, that it should allow you to do this. But if you go down to search engines, you can change your search engine to whatever else you want. You have Brave, Google, DuckDuckGo, Quant, Bing, Start Page, Ecosia. In fact, this is the only one I know of that has Start Page by default, which I think is certainly the better of the various search engines. So here's index other sites. Here's manage search engines, so you can add more search engines there. But I think what Firefox is getting at is when you search for something in the bar here, it's not as easy. There is a way to do it, and I don't remember exactly what it is. Here we can do manage search engines and site search, show full URLs. So that can pull that up. However, there's not an easy way to do it out of the box. Whereas on Firefox, if we search for something, it defaults to Google, which is definitely not privacy respecting or privacy interesting. They do this because Google keeps Mozilla afloat with 85% of their budget. However, I can, on Firefox, search for something, and I can actually, I should be able to pull down. Oh, there you go. Instead, I can go to the very bottom down here. Instead, I can say, well, let's search it with Bing instead. And so now this time it searches with Bing, whereas if I come right back up and do it again, it goes back to the default, which is Google. That's what Firefox is getting at. So I think that Brave has actually said that they are supposed to have some in here. You can, of course, ask Leo, which is the AI integration. And to me, AI integration is nonsense. I completely hate that. Now, let's talk about that real quick, though, because under Firefox Labs, you can actually enable the chatbot options. And that will, if you want to use AI type features, you can do that. Whereas on Brave, it is enabled by default, but you can go in and turn it off. Go under Leo and turn that crap off, and then it will, in theory, it should now disappear. So let's try search. It still says ask Leo down here despite turning that off. But overall, it's not going to show up on my bar anymore. And maybe I have to restart the system because it's still there. Why is it still there? Let me go back to the settings again. You can see why I say it's not like a... There's default conversations. You can do remember Claude. Isn't Claude the Firefox one? I'm gonna restart Brave, see if that's what I have to do to kill Leo. No, Leo is still there. I think I can remove that. Yeah, there you go. Hide Leo icon. That's kind of what I wanted to do. So you can see that both of them will handle the AI type approaches if you wanted to. All right, so next they say Brave defaults to their own search engine, which is infinitely more private than Google. So don't sit here and talk about Firefox is better for privacy when you're pushing every search by default through Google. In fact, it gives us the options of Google, Bing, Amazon. The only one that is privacy respecting at all is DuckDuckGo, which is not the best. Again, they don't have start page or anything like that. So they also say they have, okay, we already addressed the password stuff. We're going to address that again. They also have easy-to-use features such as edit PDFs on the go with a Firefox browser window. This is more gimmicky than anything else. So I just created this simple PDF here with LibreOffice, exported it as a PDF. You can see here it's just a PDF reader. And if you do a PDF on Brave, again, we can view it. There's nothing really there. But if we do it on Firefox, we have editing tools. So I can come over here and let me... Well, I thought it could. I actually tested this earlier and it worked just fine. Okay. Okay, there you go. Just click your cursor somewhere. This is some text. And in the van down by the river. And date is today. And if I want, I can add an image down here. Just click on the image box. I add an image. I don't think I have an actual image on this computer here. I just built the virtual machine. I did test it. It works. So the idea is you can add elements to the PDF and then you can print it out or you can save it. Yes, somewhat convenient. Is this like, oh my Lord, I need to use Firefox because I can edit a PDF? No, this is not a game changer for me. In fact, I find that Mozilla's aggressive use of PDFs is extraordinarily frustrating. And I often turn it off on my systems because I hate it. So that to me is a gimmick. That's not something that is actually important. It's good to know it's there. If you need it, you got it, but it's not amazing. Translate a web page, again, a gimmick. Okay, I very rarely am on a place where I need to translate a web page. And the way this works, I have to download a massive translation library offline and have all that extra data on the system, all the translate a web page, and I might only do once. I don't really care in that instance. If I run into a case where I have a website I need to translate, I actually just pull up Chromium, which translates. Yes, it does use Google's services, but if we're talking about translating one random website in a year, I think I've done 1 or 2 websites this whole year that needed to be translated. I do not want my browser having all this excessive code for translating a web page locally. In an instance, I don't need that feature. Now, you might need that feature. This might be a feature you need, but this is not a go-to feature for the majority of people looking for a privacy-focused web browser. Same thing. I don't need if I'm focused on a privacy-focused web browser, I'm not concerned about the ability to edit a PDF. I'm concerned about privacy. And according to the privacy org tests, Brave is the better choice out of the box. Now, where Mozilla does infinitely better is the ability to control about everything. So if you go into About Config and you proceed past this, there are so many settings and options in here that you can do, you can adjust. And this is why I have a hardening guide. You can go in here and tinker with settings and make Firefox anything you want it to be. If you hate those stupid website notifications, would you like to receive notifications? Hit notifications and DOM web notifications enabled true. Not anymore. I will never see a notification on this browser again. And so that's the thing. Let's look at geolocation data, right? Geo enabled. Nope. Not telling me, not telling a website where I'm located at. Very simple to do. if you think that picture-in-picture is an abomination like I do, there is an option. There you go. Media, video controls, picture-in-picture enabled. And then there's a number of other picture-in-picture things. There are, but I think 3 of these you have to disable. I forget exactly which one. But if you hate picture-in-picture, you can do it right there. If you love picture-in-picture, hey, Firefox actually handles picture-in-picture better. Brave does handle picture-in-picture, just not as easy. But if you get into the understanding and learning how to use the under the hood about config in Firefox, you have a lot more options. Now, Brave does have a similar feature to it. If you go to Brave /flags, this gets you something similar. However, it's not nearly as robust. You can search for things. I don't know. Let's search for notifications. So there's notifications. Fancy Boy notifications is list. Enable Brave ads, custom push notifications. Allow Brave ads. So I'd have to dig through here to double check. Include abusive notification sites and permission. Send tab to iOS. So there's nothing in here that allows you to simply disable all notifications on the system. Other things, other frustrations and whatnot. First, let's see. I have no idea where DNS over HTTPS might be. Which is something that this had enabled by default. So the idea behind that option, and we've talked about it many times on the channel before, this allows you to encrypt your DNS over through a DNS server, which prevents your ISP or somebody else from seeing what websites you're looking up. This carries some positives, but some negatives as well. Firefox handles this out of the box. Let me go back into my settings. Out of the box, Firefox, first, they will actually check if you're doing a canary. There is a code you can put on your server to tell it not to do this. And I don't have the information with me here. You can look it up. But you can see that by default, it is going to enable it where it is enabled. There is an increase where you can choose when to use it. And then they have Cloudflare, Next DNS. Here's max protection, will always use it. And then off will always use your system. Now, the reason I don't like this is if you're doing something local on your network or on your computer for filtering, DNS over HTTPS is going to completely override that. That's why I like turning it off and using my router to control this type of stuff. However, it is important to say that there is a good use for it as long as you completely trust who you are doing DNS over HTTPS with. I believe there might or should be another setting for that inside of Brave. I do not know where that is off the top. And I believe that this will enable DNS over HTTPS by default, I believe, everywhere. That's what I think it's doing. So there's that. I don't know where to turn that off. If you know, let me know in the comments. Now, the other things Brave has, you can see this triangle. That's their Batcoin system. I completely disable that crap. This is one of those things that the Brave company does that I completely disagree with. It's sometimes, I mean, I've talked about it before in the past as sort of like extortion. You can literally use the system on the site and then you'll be like, oh, I want to support this creator. And so you're using Brave, and the more time you spend on their website or their YouTube channel or something like that, you're saving up Brave credits, and Brave will be like, hey, we got money sitting over here. You just need to create an account with a company we choose, and then we'll give you all this money. No, I'm not involved in any of that nonsense. So if you're using Batcoin to support Switch to Linux, please redirect those funds elsewhere. I'm not getting involved in that. It is enabled by default. You can turn it off. Once again, I forget exactly where exactly. I thought it was under the Brave Rewards tab. You can turn it off, but again, I don't know exactly where that is right here. It's very easy. Just look it up, Brave, turn off Bat, and you can do that. So that's what that does, frustratingly. Other things, Firefox, of course, they're trying to push their Pocket. They're trying to push their search suggestions. They're trying to push all of this crap that I want nothing to do with. So both of these browsers, here you go. Here's your weather. Here's your recommended stories, sponsored stories, all enabled by default. No, 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 no. Turn it all off. Don't care. So neither one of these is absolutely an amazing browser. Out of the box, Brave is more private than Firefox. If you get into the settings, Firefox can be better than Brave. You just have to spend the time to learn how to do it. We've had a Firefox privacy guide in the past. I think we might do another one here coming up, because there's been a lot of changes since our last one was in 2022. So I might look into that and explore that in a little bit more detail. I personally use both browsers. They're both good. They both have a lot of features. They both have the ability to do some tweaking and some tests to make sure everything is working the way that you want. And so ultimately, that is what my personal take is on this particular system. Is I use them both, and I recommend people use a number of different web browsers and the various things that they are doing, because it is quite important to isolate things out into different systems. Now, as I said, we're going to wrap up with a couple brief Reddit posts, because a few of these were useful to mention here. This will just take a few minutes here. This guy, I don't understand why these two Davids are fighting each other instead of confronting massive Goliaths. Well, except that Firefox is being fed by Goliath, and that's probably the case. Yeah, these two need to team up and say, hey, we're both really good. This is what we excel at. This is what he excels at, because both of them have good, compelling things. Both of them have their detractions. And it'd be way better if, instead of Firefox coming in with some probably a moronic intern taking these pot shots, leaving social media posts disparaging Brave, it'd probably be better if they teamed up and said, hey, we got to deal with things. If Firefox isn't for you, look at Brave. Brave should say, if Brave's not for you, look at Firefox. They both should be saying you should use a variety of privacy-focused browsers. Use ours for this, this, and this purpose, and this one for this, this, and this purpose, and stop trying to sit here and say that the other privacy-focused browser is not as good as you, especially if you're Mozilla and objectively, according to an independent privacy auditing organization, Brave is better, and you are involved in sending user data to advertisers. Not a good battle to be involved in. And this guy responds out by saying, because they're not in the business of privacy, they're in the business of making money, just like the Goliaths. Somewhere, a Microsoft Edge employee is pinning the Goliath title in their cubicle. There you go. Firefox privacy settings are strong and easy to use. Brave's default ad blocker may break websites, so you have to keep fiddling with it. That's a quote from the Firefox release. Firefox, I love you, but stop saying stuff that can easily be misinterpreted, as you are headed towards going against ad blockers in the future by many users, leading to a PR mess. True. Not to mention, Firefox is only private if you make it private. True. Firefox by default is not private. It has capabilities of making it private. It is not private by default. Their recent changes have brought them into conflict with NOYB, not the ones that brought down the Privacy Shield and got Meta slapped repeatedly. Yeah. That NOYB, this is the advocacy group in UK. I think it's called None of Your Business, I think. And this is an organization. They aggressively sue organizations that are taking, abusing privacy data. Yeah, Firefox is on their radar. So in the case of Firefox, or better said Mozilla, I'd keep a low profile, especially if I recently announced to make stuff opt out instead of opt in. And that's the problem with the privacy attribute that we had talked about. That is opt out. I should have showed it when we were over there, but it is on my privacy attribute video. You have to go in and opt out of it. And they keep on changing the language, so you don't never know if you're opted in or opted out. It's weird. Not to mention Firefox is only private if you make it private. Okay, we already covered that one. So I've been using Brave for 5 years now. I don't think I've had to turn Shields off to fix a website. I'm the same case. Now, I find that the Shields is not as effective as it could be, so I run Brave Shields and uBlock Origin simultaneously. That's what I found works best. And frankly, I think the Brave Shields is like, okay, little lion, you do your thing, okay? I really think that's what it is. I think uBlock Origin is really the secret sauce there, honestly. Let's see, been using Brave for about 5 years. I don't think I'm about to turn anything off. Yeah, LibreWolf, if you really want the best Firefox security hardened, do either LibreWolf or Mullvad. LibreWolf is better if you want to install your own extensions. Mullvad has a couple extensions by default, but does not allow you to change it, because the reason behind Mullvad is that every browser looks exactly the same. Every instance of Mullvad looks exactly the same. Brave was funded by Peter Thiel. Firefox may not be perfect, but I am returning investment to that monster if it can be avoided. Yeah, I'm not returning investment. That is one of my criticisms of Brave. Brave was founded by a whole bunch of venture capitalists who their focus. If you go back and read the initial funding of Brave, I talked about this on my channel 6 years ago. The original funding of Brave was not to create a privacy browser. Remember, it came up right around the time that all the privacy-focused companies was the in-trend thing. Brave is just a product of that. They were created to build an alternative advertising system. That's what founded Brave. That's why I had a problem with BAT and a few of the other things that I'd done in the past. So yeah, Peter Thiel is also the guy that launched Facebook off the ground. He is an investor behind Brave. So other organizations in there, there are some other frightening people. This is why the browser itself for Brave is good. I don't really trust the company behind it. That's the truth. Firefox hasn't shoved AI down my throat. It's in there. It is opt-in. The only thing they've done opt-in lately. Can't say the same about Brave Search. I hate AI. That is one of the reasons I don't use Brave Search. Well, AI killed all search engines, really. That's the case, worse, it has shoved Google search down your throat. Yeah. I'm not sure what that says. Because, Firefox is the one that pushes Google search down your throat. Firefox has flaws, but honestly, Brave has a sketchy history run by questionable CEO. Plus the constant push for crypto and AI. Yes, that is a detractor for Brave for me particularly. I can't stand all that nonsense, and I've disabled it. But at least Firefox is not cramming it down our throat yet, but don't worry, it's coming soon. Firefox claiming Brave search setup is a problem feels a bit hypocritical given Mozilla's going to deal with Google. Yeah. People always treat this like the browser that forces you to use Google. That's the true thing. It is very easy to change your search engine in Firefox. Even adding start page is easy to do. Just go to startpage.com, click the button on that page on Firefox. It will install the start page browser, and then you can choose to set that as your default. That's what I do. I use start page as my default browser. Yes, I have issues with that company too, but again, I have voted for my crazy president, and I have chosen the one that I think is the best. Especially, I've talked with some people in the company at StartPage. Despite their System 1 deal that they probably shouldn't have, I still do trust StartPage. So that's my thought there. This is dumb. I like and use both. That's my final assessment. I think both of them have enough merits to use them both. So that is my overall thought. Let me know your thoughts about this discussion down in the comments down below. Are you using one or the other or both? Let me know your thoughts, your experiences, your positives and your negatives. With that, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.